What it do, Jive Turkeys, and welcome back to The Controversy. I'm your host, Ian Elliott-Carter. And this guy, he has a hell of a resume and a complicated tax return. Give it up for Daniel. Let me make sure I say your last name right. Seddiqui.
Yeah, that's good. You got it.
Yes.
Seddiqui, whatever.
I've been studying all week for that.
Yeah.
I'm here to take y'all down with violence. Put y'all bitches to silence. I'm fucking up all your tyrants. So we come down and riot. Maybe it's instigated. Maybe y'all want the people be evil and not sedated. This is what y'all created. Monsters up in us all. Breaking your mouth ajar. Hit you with southpaw. This might be a psychosis. Taking pills so we focus. Then we just start leaning ODing cause that's what dope is. Haven't you ever noticed? Government's in your pocket. Get the Glock and you cock it. Fuck the gossip and pop it. Cause y'all fucked us for profit. Y'all devils need a prophet. You might have helicopters but we got some hella choppers. Boom boom, there goes the coppers. Leave them dead just obnoxious. Blood name up on the dockers and operate on the doctors. No need to ever talk us down on A to flee. Y'all should never fuck us and now you're fucked by me. You see? Are you ready?
I'm so glad I got that right. So this is the author of 50 Jobs in 50 States. He also has another book called Going
the Extra Mile.
Going the Extra Mile, which I have not read. But
yeah,
I'm almost done with your book, 50 Jobs in 50 States. I'm on chapter 9.
Nice.
Yes, so I think you're at like the 30th state, 30th.
Yeah, roughly that.
Yeah. Very, very inspiring book. And it's got heart too, man. You know, it deals with heartbreak, it deals with depression, anxiety, and all that stuff.
Sure, yeah. So I would say I broke down the chapters by my emotional state of mind. You know, starting out the book feeling very defeated, feeling like the world was against me, you know, because I was getting so much rejection out of college. And then as I developed this concept to do a different job in different states, it was just, you know, kind of born out of thin air. Yeah, I just kind of went for it. I had nothing to lose. And once I got the one job to say yes, then the second one came, just learning how to deal with rejection, which was a big part of my journey. And I can imagine what your viewers can take away. I mean,
a lot of my
rejection.
A lot of my viewers are rejected by girls daily. We're about to
I think that's how it started for me, you know, just getting numb to it.
Right.
And then just kind of like saying, you know what, I could deal with the no's, the uncertainty, and being adaptable, and knowing that, you know, you just got to be on a clear, focused path, and nothing could deter you. Deter you. And so that's kind of like how I was able to go from one job to 50 jobs. And then, as you'll find out at the end, I just came out with a lot of confidence and really went from the world against me to tackling the world, you know? So
right on. And when you say the world against me, like, it wasn't just 40 jobs that rejected you, but even your own parents lost faith in you. They're just like, man, get up out of this house. What's wrong with you?
Even if I shared it with my friends, they're like, yeah, that's kind of a weird thing, you know, like, how are you going to do that? You have no money. You couldn't even find a job in your own field of study. How are you going to go out and be a cheesemaker in Wisconsin or a marine biologist in Washington? Like, how are you going to pull that off? And, you know, all that negativity is kind of what, like, with my personality, just, it gave me that more power of like, yeah, I'm gonna make this why extremely strong, and you know, that the how is gonna become very easy because of my passion behind it. So
right on. What kind of advice do you give to like rejection? Because like you mentioned, rejection just basically made you a stronger monster when it comes to
yes, it's funny. USA Today did call me the most rejected person in the world at the time.
Wow.
It was kind of a big title to have, and I kind of went with it. I used that to market myself, to say, you know, at least I'm known for something, you know, because at the time I wasn't known for anything besides rejection itself. But to get that title from a big publication was kind of cool. But yeah, to embrace rejection it should be a part of everyone's life, because that's when your world truly opens up, because that's when you become fearless. And, you know, like I said, you make yourself numb to it and take it out of the equation, and then doors truly do open up, because then you become on the path that you're supposed to be on, rather than a path choosing you choose the path.
This reminds me of a Chris Rock quote. He said something in the interview like, if there's a guy on the side of the road just begging for money, a lot of people will just, you know, they'll get sympathy once in a while, but they'll just keep going. But if you see somebody like trying to working for it, they'll get people help by the dozens. They'll be like, hey, you know, here's some help, and here's a resume or something like that for you, you know. So I thought that was exactly what you did. You know, you instead of sitting on your couch, instead of, you know, having these rejections just like take a toll on you. Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
So it's telling though about the workforce. When you the values of the workforce, it seems like they want more experience and more networking versus, like, of course, your 4-year degree. Or was it, how many years degree did you have? It was
it was 4 years at the time. You're right. You know, they're coming out of college. It's kind of ironic that they're looking for experience for an entry-level job. So, you know, I just graduated college. You know, maybe I had some internships under my belt. Right. But they're looking for 5 years of experience for an entry-level job.
Set you up, right?
Yeah, set me up for failure. But that's kind of how it went. But, you know, in today's world, it's totally different. I mean, I think, well, depending on the industries, but yeah, service, retail, I mean, they're dying for people right now. I wish I was in that position, you know, 13 years ago, because I couldn't even find a retail job, you know? Yeah. So it's a different world, and you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, like the theme is that the world is going to throw you curveballs. You got to figure out how to be adaptable.
And what you just said, I was going to talk about this later, but it's a good time to talk about it now. So this is a different world from when you wrote this book, or you wrote this book later on, but you started your journey in 2008. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you started this, and that was after the market crash. It was a recession. It was a terrible time.
Yeah.
Gas prices.
Yeah, millions of people losing their job, and now millions of people are quitting their jobs.
Yes.
Because they're trying to look for better opportunities.
It's like a night and day. Like it's a terrible time for I feel like it's more of a transitional time though, because I have this prediction that a lot of things are going to be Uber in the future. People are going to be working for themselves, because a lot of people are quitting by the masses, especially after the pandemic. So comparing back in 2008 to 2022 when this comes out, what do you think, how would you have handled doing 50 jobs in 50 states? You would have probably had a lot of people just like, please stay and stuff like that. What are your biggest difference you see from then and now?
Yeah. Well, in 2008, you know, it was very competitive. Right. And, you know, as we mentioned, millions of people are losing their job because that's just how the market was.
Right.
And so to find a job was very hard. Now, I would say, you know, I haven't really thought about this, but yeah, finding some of the jobs that I had would be a lot easier. And, you know, students or recent graduates have kind of the pick of the litter. But I would have to actually say still, if the upper level jobs, executive jobs, those are actually probably even more competitive to find now.
Right.
So because they're trying to hold on to their jobs, they're probably doing more different roles now, because they're having covering for, you know, people that they used to have to manage.
Yeah.
So I see it's different that way. But yeah, ultimately the world is competitive, you know, no matter what time it is. And you have to find ways to stand out, market yourself, network, because ultimately you want to find a long-term fulfilling career, not just a medial job, you know, and just find a minimum wage type job, because those are really easy to come by right now. But yeah, if you want to have a fulfilling career, you know, you still got to be searching for that, and not relying. I think a lot of people are quitting their jobs now because they are relying on the government. That's not the kind of life I want to live.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so
but
I
we
want
were
to be
spoiled in 2020 though. like a lot of those stimulus checks and stuff like that. So, I mean, I could see the other side of people like not wanting to jump off the couch, but no, I agree with you as well too. Like, you know, you got to work for it. You can't just get everything given to you. So.
Yeah, no, that's what life is about. It's finding something that you love doing. You know, whether it's your creativity, your craft, having a purpose in the world. You don't want to just sit back and wait for these things to come to you.
For sure, man.
So,
and you took that journey. You got in your brother gave you a loan of $5,000. That's correct. And you got
yeah.
It was a Cherokee Jeep,
it wasn't
right?
a gift. It wasn't a gift. It was something I had to pay back.
No. So it was a Jeep Cherokee, right? Or was it okay. So
so I started out with not having any vehicle up until I was 26 years old. And then I just took that loan from my brother, and then I brought a Jeep Cherokee off of Craigslist, which was the thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if people trust it as much now, but it was a very reliable vehicle, and I still have it today.
Oh, you still got it today? Okay, so fans of the book, he still owns the Jeep. So can you give us the basics of Jeep life, like how to survive in a Jeep?
I think Jeep is a very reliable vehicle. I mean, I've had that. I bought it was 1997, and so it was 11 years old when I bought it. It had about 100,000 miles on it when I purchased it.
Oh boy, you were really taking a leap of faith on that one.
Yeah, I did. And now it just has about 150,000. So I haven't really used it much.
Okay.
But super comfortable when you need to put down the seats and sleep, because I had to sleep in the back of the vehicle for many nights.
Yes. Freezing at times too.
Yep. Freezing in Kansas or Iowa. Yeah. So it's I had a lot of so I couldn't give it up. I had to just keep it for at least sentimental reasons.
Right.
But yeah, it's not my primary vehicle now, but I do have another Jeep, a black Jeep. So
shoot. That's a piece of your history.
Yeah. So
I mean, I'm glad you had a place to stay during that tornado though. I'm sure that was a culture shock.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You don't have tornadoes down there
we have hurricanes, but no, I've never dealt with a tornado.
Yeah, well, they're both you can kind of predict, which is nice, right? So you can see it coming. But I grew up in California where earthquakes could happen anytime. So we had to do the duck and cover drills on a weekly basis to, hide under your desk or stand underneath the doorway. But going to the Midwest for the first time in my life during that journey to experience like a tornado sirens. I'm like, what the heck is that?
Yeah, you said something in the book like you thought it was an escaped prisoner.
yeah. A prison break. Yeah. So it's just culture shocks everywhere I went across the country. I mean, California is a big state where I grew up. We vacation in our own state. So I never really got a chance to explore the rest of the country, even though I was always curious about it.
Right.
And, it was shocking to see Native Americans for the first time, or cowboys, or Amish people, and I got a chance to live and work with all types of people across the country. So.
Yeah, and I envy this trip. So we'll talk about the pros and the cons. One of the negative things I've seen in this trip, though, and I think you even mentioned that this is probably one of your least favorite jobs, is when you were in Kansas as a meat packer, right?
Yeah.
And you said that there was a time where this guy, the cows were coming through, and he said, "Welcome to hell," and he spit on the cow.
Yeah.
When I read that, oh my God, I was like, that was probably one of the worst humane things I've seen or read.
Well, I gotta say, like, kind of like with me with Rejection, you kind of have to be heartless in certain stages, and they had to do their job. It's part of their industry and their culture.
Oh, for sure. I'm gonna eat meat regardless. I'm just not gonna spit on the cow.
You had to kind of build that core where you're like, you didn't need to go like what he did, but you kind of have to make yourself numb to knowing that you're killing animals on a daily basis, like massive animals, and you otherwise you couldn't do it. If you had emotions towards these animals, you wouldn't be able to do your job. Right. So that's kind of what I had to learn when I saw this for the first time, just to see the animals being shot and then lifted up on, you know,
Jeez.
chains and totally gutted. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, so it was gruesome, but yeah, it made me appreciate how food gets onto our plate, you know, and like,
Yeah.
you know, the ins and outs of it, just like gasoline. When I was working oil fields of Oklahoma, I had no idea how gasoline was produced, and what the people go through in order to rig it out. And
Tough job.
yeah. So this journey, if anything, made me appreciate the work that people do. Since I have an econ degree, to learn about the industries firsthand. Yeah, it really put my degree in a new perspective and a new light by actually having a worldly experience.
I love it, man. And of
Yeah.
course, like I've said multiple times, definitely envy it. I'm an advocate of mental health, and I could tell, like, just reading this book, it was a really toll on your anxiety and the stress. You had a girl playing games with you. Every time she popped up in the story, I was like, get out of here. What are we doing here?
Yeah, the girl
Sasha, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So she actually added me on LinkedIn like last year. Like,
Oh, really?
12 years later, she just decided to just like see how I'm doing, you know? And I was right. She ended up living back in her home country of Saudi Arabia. So yeah, I think, because, you know, your viewers don't know, but yeah, I was really into this girl and that I met on the road, and she was like my one and only friend at that time when I felt the lowest. And
she was basically one of the reasons you started this trip. You motivated you for it.
It was kind of like to maybe impress her and to see if I could actually win her, you know, and that's kind of a bad term, win her like a trophy, but no, you know, just kind of win her heart, and to show her that I was courageous and ambitious, and you know, and she stayed in touch with me for the first 8 states, and then she just dropped me out of nowhere, and that was very hurtful, and I felt very alone, and then I felt like, oh, what's the purpose of this trip, you know? And and my return back to the place where I met her, and it's all falling apart.
Yeah.
And actually, you know what? That was a good sign, because then it made me realize I was doing this for me.
Good.
Ultimately, I was doing this for all the people that I met across the country that I was helping and inspiring through this journey. And you know, I realized that you can't do things to impress others in this world. You got to do things to impress yourself. And do things that is not for others, do it for you. And that's kind of how that's another message that I learned, because I studied economics because of my parents. I went to certain schools because of my parents. I did everything to try to impress people. And then ultimately I realized if you're going to be fulfilled and happy, you got to do things for you and what's right for you, and make your own decisions.
That's absolutely true. I mean, it's hard. It's easier said than done, because like you, I have a fiance. I want to impress her all the time. I have a son. I want to impress him. I want to impress the guy across the street that I don't even know his name. You know, that's just, we say we do things for ourselves, but at the end of the day, sometimes we feel like we want to impress others. Like, hey, look, I'm not struggling. Hey, look, I'm part of society. I'm a stand-up guy. But at the end of the day, you're right. We should impress ourselves. Who are these people?
They're actually the people, the universe will come your way when you start impressing yourself, because if you're doing things that are right for you, then things start falling into your lap. And I realized when I started chasing girls and all that, that's when they weren't coming. But when I was realizing like I was doing things for me, then I was like, oh my God, everyone, like all these girls, I got like a date in every state during this journey, just because like I was doing what was awesome and impressive for me. And then like that just ultimately impressed others. So
I remember reading a couple of those parts. I think especially in Tennessee, which I feel like that was probably one of your favorite gigs, huh? When you were doing the engineering, right?
Music.
Yeah,
I was in the music industry. Oh yeah, that's a whole that's a crazy thing, you know, that industry. Yeah.
That was a good part. So with all that said, we mentioned some of the jerks. I mentioned like Kansas, and we mentioned Miss Sasha. But at the end of the day, though, you had so much love. You had like, you know, a bright light of compassion and love for like strangers throughout the country. And when we watch the news, we watch the media, we watch like viral videos, it's hard to believe sometimes that there's nice people out there because we get spotlighted on the negative. But reading your book actually put faith in not even just humanity, but just Americans in general, how welcoming they were to you.
Yeah, no, I would have to say if it weren't for the people that I met, I wouldn't have made it through the journey. You know, it was, 99.5%, hospitable people, not hostile, hospitable. Yeah. I would have to say I have rarely met people who weren't willing to help, be a part of a support system, who weren't willing to talk to you. But if you watch the news today, it's so depressing, especially because it's not the country that I know.
Exactly. Me too.
And I was very, very happy that the media covered me so much in 2008 and to 2009 to be such a inspiring story, human interest story, to show the kindness of the country.
Exactly.
But now I don't think I would get the attention. I think that the media is totally different. They want division. They want racial tensions. They want political turmoil. I don't know why. But
I mean, it's ratings. I get it. People are attracted to
ratings.
Negativity.
You tune in when you have more turmoil. So
absolutely.
But ultimately, I mean, we're having so many new outlets now, such as yourself, to go to and hear some real stories.
Exactly. This is why I reached out, because I'm just tired of just reading negative stuff. I want to see something inspiring, and you've honestly inspired me. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to do all that just because I have a family, but I would love to one day. Seriously, that would be something of the sorts.
Well, you can always do it. Even if you have a family, you have lack of money, whatever the excuse may be, you can always find the time to do it. I have a 9-month-old daughter. I have a family. I have a full-time job, but I'm actually currently on another journey, as you kind of are aware of, where I'm actually learning a craft in every city in the country. And I was just in Tampa making cigars. So I got 18 cities to go, and I'm doing a total of 65. But I just find time to fit in my passion, and I'll be writing my 4th book. And these are all passion projects. Yeah, sure, I can probably make a living, but I'll be a starving artist. But you'll be happy. I find ways to fit it in,
Absolutely.
So.
I like how you just checked me. I'm just like, I'm a father. I'm a fiance. I have a child. You said, shut up. This is what you said. Shut up. Stop with the excuses.
Well, they ultimately have to support what you're doing too. So,
absolutely. And they do. Yeah. I love them. I love them to death. Yeah. But no, I appreciate that. Seriously. That was inspirational, what you just said. So I don't know if I'm going to get this answer at the end of the book, or if there's actually an interview of this, but I wanted to ask you. So with all your total earnings, because I know you got earnings from 46 states out of 50.
Yeah.
And Meatpacking Case didn't pay you, surprisingly. All together though, could you share with us your finance of that trip?
Yeah. I mean, I probably made about 40,000 on the trip. But, all of it went to the expenses of being on the road, because, traveling is not cheap at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning that even right now, you can easily spend 1,000 in a city just to, get there, stay in a hotel, the food, the activities. So traveling is not cheap, but I've made quite a good earnings on the book.
Yes.
And then lecturing was my primary source of income.
Okay.
So, I made up to 14,000 on the talk, and just on 1 hour talk. But
we'll have a link to your TED Talk at the end of this.
Yeah, awesome. But I would say an average for a speaking engagement probably be, mostly through my career, has been about 2,500 for an hour talk, and that's mostly on college campuses.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done like thousands of presentations over the course of the last decade. So because of the 50 jobs journey, I have made going from homeless to making a pretty good income, and ultimately I would do it I would have done these projects without the attention, without the book, because I was just so curious about America.
Yeah,
and wanting to experience it, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, you even rejected a film crew. I think the Weather Channel were sponsoring you?
Discovery Channel.
Discovery Channel,
yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
Discovery Channel offered me to do a television show inspired, like a spinoff of Dirty Jaws, but I declined it just because, I wanted to do this for me.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do this authentically. And, there's parts where I feel like, oh, maybe the longevity of my career would have been greater if I did pick up a TV show and be a host, but no, everything dies down,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately, since I did it so organically, I think it's been a stronger human interest story, better story to share on stage in a book. Right. And now I'm writing my 4th book, I think, because it was the first one was a very authentic experience.
For sure. Absolutely. So you mentioned in this book, which again, I said I'm not finished, but you mentioned it seemed like the harder you worked, the less you would got. And then it seems like the less you worked, like more people would donate to your cause, or the more you would make. Do you feel like that's kind of like what it is in life? Really? Like you got, like, to me, there's a lot of, I'm going to curse. I don't know if you're going to blow up and die if I say it. There's a lot of shit jobs in America. A lot of jobs that sometimes you go to and you're like, why am I getting paid for this? Even me. Hopefully my employees aren't. I work at a dispensary. Literally, I just grab the marijuana and put it in a jar and sell it. That's it.
Yeah.
It's something. It's an easy job, and I get paid $15 an hour. And I would say it's a shit job. I love my job. Don't get it twisted. It pays the bills, but I do feel like maybe I might be a little bit overpaid for this job compared to like a janitor that might be making $10 an hour. It's
who's working harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you think, like, when it comes to that? Like, it's more like popularity sometimes when it comes to these incomes.
That's a good question. Hopefully I'm not mixed up by the question, but when you're an executive or a CEO, you actually have the easiest job. Because my dad, he's done startups, he's been an executive, he's been CEO of many startup companies. He's always told me that he's had his legs up on the desk. And he gets to pay the highest. So it's all about your managerial skills, making sure you're delegating it. The saying, don't work hard, work smart. So that's the truth, and the people who work smart are typically getting paid the most. The people who are working the hardest, they're getting paid the least, and I noticed that when I was working with migrant field workers coming from Mexico, I did that for my 2nd book, Going the Extra Mile. And I got a chance to pick produce with them, probably 14 hours a day in 116-degree weather in Central California. And they're getting paid, pocket change, and it was the hardest. But what's interesting, they had great attitudes, maybe because of their work ethic from their homeland, or just grateful to have a job, any job in America.
Absolutely.
So your question I think it just depends on who you are, where you are culturally, what your values of work are.
Gotcha.
In a lot of countries, work is not valued. Maybe in Europe, as much as America, where work is everything. Your identity of what your career is everything in America.
Right.
Some people are just grateful to have a job and to have a paycheck. I think it just varies on who you are as a person, and what industry you're in. But I would say ultimately, work smart, not hard.
Yeah. And that's easier said than done sometimes, but I definitely agree. You mentioned your other book, Going the Extra Mile, which is more of a social book. Can you, I'm very interested in that, but can you give us a brief summary of that though? You're putting yourself in social, there it is.
Going the Extra Mile. The tagline is, one man's curiosity through America leads to compassion. And so I thought that was a timely book because we are lacking compassion in America, just because you see so much division just on our politics, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, I could see how we're divided because of that, but when you lose respect and compassion, I don't see why that should take place. You know, we should really know that our environment really shapes who we become. You know, it's what we're used to seeing. You know, we're seeing our family, our network, our jobs that we see around us. Of course, that's going to shape our values and our principles. So we have to respect our differences, because Florida is very different than Washington or Maine or Nebraska. So we can't expect to be the same. But to lose respect and compassion, we should be very prideful as Americans, and just unite through what we're really good at, and that's our work ethic, our innovation, our creativity, our craftsmanship, our pioneering spirit, all these things that we should be very prideful of. And that's why I did that second book, Going the Extra Mile, because I went to the hardest hit communities in America that are suffering from an epidemic, whether that's drug abuse or obesity or extreme poverty or high unemployment. So I went to Indian Reservation in South Dakota, which is 90% unemployed, which is outrageous. So nobody's working.
Jeez.
And it's mostly because the government supports their lifestyle. And it's not a lifestyle you want to live, but
for sure, no.
But still, there's people, maybe it's human nature that you'd rather just have a handout than to work and suffer versus actually working and actually, having a pretty decent life, fulfilling life. So
for sure.
And that's what you're taught through your environment and your family and kind of the society around you. So then I went to Mississippi Delta, where I trained the most obese town in America. And obesity is huge in Mississippi. I think they're about almost 40% of the state is obese.
Hey man, they got good food. Can't help it.
Yeah. So I went down there and I trained this town, about 1,500 people. They're predominantly obese because everybody around them is. So you're going to have the same eating habits. You're going to have the same exercise habits. That's just another community presented in the book. And then I went to Appalachia to understand extreme poverty. Went to South Chicago to understand the gang violence.
I'd love to into it. So I have a quick question. I don't mean to interrupt you though, but
yeah,
I agree with everything you're saying about being in your culture. This is might be what you're doing because you're just a product of your own environment and living off the government. It's not the best place to not the best way to live, but it's there, so they take advantage of it. Do you think systemic racism has a lot to do with some of the poverty here in America? Like you mentioned Southside Chicago, and there's probably places in Atlanta that you visit, you're just like, wow, these places sometimes have nowhere to grow. Yeah.
Historically speaking, in my perspective, yes, 100% systemic, because in Chicago, you had redlining where you were only allowed to live in certain neighborhoods if you're, depending on what race you were. And this didn't only just happen to Black people. It happened to if you're Irish, happened to if you're Italian, it happened to all different demographics of people.
Absolutely.
And so that was actually a real thing. And now I think it's maybe has become culturally a thing. I don't think it's the government's telling us or employers are telling us how to live and where to live or what kind of jobs we can take. But I think culturally, speaking, it's kind of weird to see that person in my neighborhood. I think that still exists today.
All day, yeah.
As you see in South Carolina, that Georgia case where the 3 white guys killed a Black guy who was just jogging.
Yeah.
In the neighborhood, it was kind of kind of like, well, why is this Black guy jogging through this white neighborhood? That's kind of odd.
Yeah.
And so I that still exists today.
Yeah.
And I don't see that ever disappearing, you know, but that's just the way it is until people start getting used to seeing more diversity in their neighborhoods, because it didn't really happen in where I grew up in Silicon Valley, California. We had Indians, Asians, we had Mexicans, we had all sorts of people I grew up going to high school with. So it was normal to see diversity. And it's up to us, culturally speaking, if we want to segregate ourselves, because you go to Chicago where you see certain neighborhoods. Oh, that's an Indian neighborhood. That's Little Italy. That's Ukrainian village. That's, you know, or you see that in New York City. That's Little Puerto Rico. That's, you know, whatever case may be. So it's up to us if we want to just like integrate and merge. But yeah, that's hopefully that kind of answers your question.
No, you definitely answered the question. So I feel like there's definitely, and as you point out, definitely systemic problems here in America. But as you did, you got out of your comfort zone. Yeah. And you went out and made something for yourself. So I feel like there's no excuse to ever get out of your comfort zone. That's just a personal choice. Even if there is things holding you back, you can always get out of it. But you know, I feel like that is something we should acknowledge. Like some people are just not born ready to make that challenge. So for my next question though, what was the best place that you felt like you lived when it came to the 50 states?
That varies too, because it depends, like, because I love the great outdoors, so the mountains, the rivers, the lakes. So I'm currently living in Oregon, which has it all.
Okay.
You know, I live in Bend, Oregon, Central California, where I'm only 15 minutes from a 12,000 foot mountain, Mount Bachelor, where you can go skiing, or you can, which a mile down the road is a river, the Chutes River, where you can go floating on a tube. You can do that all in the same day, which is awesome.
Dang, a little bit of everything.
So I love the great outdoor states like Montana, Washington, Colorado. But then there's states that I really appreciate the people, like their kindness, like the Midwest, genuine, you know, kindness of Minnesota, where I met my wife. You know, I find that she's very nice. And her family were very welcoming and accommodating when I first met them. So yeah, people are different across the country. Our landscape across the country. So I find beauty in it all. So
that's good.
Yeah, I probably could, if I were to answer, if I could live in, how many states could I actually live in? I would say probably about, 26.
26 out of 50. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I could actually live in, like there's states I just couldn't, like Arizona. It's too dry for me.
Too dry.
There's just there's no way. Or I could never live in Florida. It's just the humidity is killer, man. It's killer.
We got Florida man too. That doesn't make it safe either. So I get you.
Yeah. So yeah.
All right. Well, I got two more questions for you. I have this game I play on my show. It's called One's Gotta Go. It's when I give examples, like I give like 5 questions or 5 categories, and you say just one's gotta go, never existed, and it's gone from existence. For you, I'm gonna give 50 because I think you know where this is going. Out of all 50 states, which one's gotta go for good? Just never became a state, and we could just get that out of here. Which one?
I would have to say New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. Whoa, that's one that's not talked about a lot. Why is that?
Because it's so similar to Vermont. It's just like, okay, if we don't need 2 of the same.
Just make them one state.
Yeah,
I get you.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't think I got to that part. What did you actually do when you were in New Hampshire?
I worked in politics, so I worked for like the Democratic Party campaigning, and that's when you'll get there, but I'll have a chance to meet Obama that week.
Oh, dope. And Bernie from New Hampshire, I believe.
Bernie is from Vermont.
Vermont. Okay. See,
I told you. It's similar. Yeah,
they're the same thing.
They're interchangeable. Yes.
Funny.
Nebraska and Iowa are also interchangeable.
Okay, so, I've never been to either.
Yeah, they're almost identical. So yeah.
Thanks for the advice. I in my travels, hopefully I'll avoid that. All right, so the last thing I have to talk about is you had this bucket list challenge that you wanted to do, and it ended up getting canceled. So tell us what you wanted to do with that. Was it self-explanatory? You had a bucket list and you wanted to just go through it?
Actually, I did it.
You did it. Okay, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I finished in 2018, and the bucket list was to do a cultural event or activity in every state. So whatever the state is known for, that's kind of what I did. So I learned how to water ski in Minnesota, because that's where water skiing was invented. And I got a chance to be on a pyramid team, like a ski team. You know, how the people stand up on shoulders and everything.
Well, you already have experience on stilts, so
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. So yeah, I try to do a bucket list of cultural events or activities in every state. So I sang in the Mormon Tabernacle Choir in Utah, Florida. I got a chance to scuba dive for the first time, actually in Panama City.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, my girl's gonna like that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell her that.
Alabama, I went to a tailgate of the University of Alabama football game. So that's like a ultimate bucket list.
I liked when you were talking about Alabama, because they really take football serious. So that was a perfect job for you.
Yeah. And then Georgia, I did mudding. So I was like in those monster trucks in the mud. Yeah. So yeah, I did that in every state, and I called it the American Bucket List Challenge.
Dope, man. I'm glad you got to do that. You just, and I'm so envious of you. Seriously, it's blowing my mind. And right now, you're actually doing crafts in 50 states. That's correct, right?
I'm doing a craft in every major city, so 65 cities.
Okay,
yeah.
so 60
and I just came through Orlando, where I got to learn caricatures. Here's a cartoon of me in Orlando.
There he is.
Yeah. So kind of like learning a different art in every city that's unique. So in Tampa, I learned the craftsmanship of the cigars. In Louisiana, I worked on a Mardi Gras float and the mask. You know, so I'm actually making a memento from every city, which is also a really cool experience to explore America.
Where are you headed now, or where are you headed soon?
I'll do Portland, Oregon next, where I'll, since they're known for biking, I'll build a custom bike.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
So,
well, man, Daniel, I really appreciate you coming on the show. First one of 2022. Where can we find you on social media? Where can we follow your journeys? And where can we, read these books? I'm almost done with your first one.
Yeah,
it's great.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have the links to my books on livingthemap.com.
Gotcha.
And then my next book probably is going to be called Piecing Together America Through All These Crafts. I think it's to be my best book, in my opinion.
Okay.
That'll be out in March of next year. So
I will definitely be reserving that on Audible, because I'm not a reader. Right now, your narrator's reading your book to me.
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right.
I'm loving it, man. Daniel, I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Thank you. You have a good one.
I appreciate
good luck
you.
To you.
And if you guys like this interview, please give me a like or a subscribe to the channel. Help keep a brother off the streets. And if you want to see more Daniel, please, there's some links in the bio. Check him out. Check out his journey, man. It's heartwarming. It's great.
One thing. Hey, I saw your Blockbuster video back there.
Oh yeah.
And I actually live in Bend that has the last Blockbuster store.
That's in where's that? That's in Oregon, right?
Bend, Oregon, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember watching the documentary about that.
Yep, I live about 2 miles from that one.
Okay, I remember that, because that's on my bucket list. I would like to go there, cool. So I might have to hit you up when I'm over there.
Help keep the street. This guy's my dad's YouTube channel. Love, peace, and chicken grease.